APEC economic leaders meeting wrapped up over the weekend. Policymakers and business leaders discussed the ways to advance trade, innovation, and sustainable growth through dialogue and cooperation in a world of uncertainty. China will be the host for the 2026 edition of the meeting. The city of Shenzhen will be the one hosting the APEC Economic Leaders Week. Among them, APEC CEO Summit. Ren Hongbin, the chairman of the China Council for Promotion of International Trade, at the end of the summit in Gyeongju, shared his thoughts with the audience about what to expect next year. Mr. Ren, congratulations. I saw you were at the closing ceremony, and China will be the host for the next APEC.
Yes.
So what are you going to prepare for next year?
Oh, it's first of all, I think it's very tough, tough work. So I already feel the very heavy
big
responsibilities on my shoulders. But of course, we are very confident to organize next year's CEO Summit in a very successful manner. And so I think next year China will host the CEO Summit for the third time. And I think I'm very confident because I have a very, I should say, very experienced expertise within CCPIT. And also, I think we have a very large group of enterprises who have been engaged in APEC issues for many years. So I think that is the very strong basis for us to be very confident in organizing next year's CEO Summit.
Right.
And the people have got to know next year CCPIT will host the CEO Summit, and many friends from the business circles all over the world came to us, and they are very eager to participate in that. So actually, this I think is a very good momentum, very good signal for us to be very, very confident.
That's true, Mr. Ren, because so many people talked to me and said, do you know any people from CCPIT? I want to be there next year in China for the APEC CEO Summit. So congratulations on that. Having said that, though, this is going to be next year, the first year of the 15th five-year plan.
Yes.
And China is going to host this grand event. How is it likely to bring Asia Pacific, especially business community, closer to one another at a time dramatic change?
You know, the Asia Pacific is always a driving force, or we can say the engine for the global growth. We always call it the Asia Pacific is the highest level and the most influential platform for the businesses to integrate into the regional integration. So I think the APEC is the platform for the businesses from across the 21 economies to strengthen cooperation in trade and economic spheres. I think next year is, as you mentioned, is a very important year, not only for China, but for the world. I think we just want to make full use of this platform to showcase, to demonstrate the stance of China to adhere the real multilateralism. And also, I think it's a very important platform for us to demonstrate the China is always a staunch supporter to the multilateral trading system, taking the WTO at its core. I have met many businesses from many countries. I think they have, I should say, the expectation that China will reassert the multilateralism through the APEC platform. So I think it's for sure, and it's an important momentum for the APEC economies to join together, to, especially from point of view of CCPIT, I think it's a task and a responsibility to help companies to overcome the current very complex landscape So help the companies to navigate into the very complex the situations nowadays.
Well said, Mr. Ren, because I've been hearing from businesses, whether Chinese or those from overseas, have been talking about CCPIT as a bridge. Some even talk about you personally as a friend because they can go to you to ask difficult questions and things they don't understand. So tell me, with this dramatic landscape change, how do you think CCPIT will be able to make China's door open even further for investment and also for business people?
So this year marks the 73rd year of founding of CCPIT. CCPIT is always setting up the bridge between Chinese companies and the foreign companies. So CCPIT is here to give help, to provide assistance for Chinese companies going abroad, and also welcome foreign companies to come to China. Actually, we promote two-way trade and a two-way investment. So that's why the people want to come to CCPIT for solutions and for help. So here, I think it's also one of our tasks to interpret the policies or measures adopted by the Chinese governments. And China is developing very fast. Also, I think it's changing better and better. But I think it's very important for the foreign companies to understand what is happening in China. So I think CCPIT just set up the bridge there.
The latest results of the China-US leadership meeting, business community here, they've been following up on that, and they've been telling me they are reading very closely as to what it means in the readouts. I really wonder, as someone who has been a bridge and leading an institution for businesses to come together, what is your interpretation? Where do you think this is leading us to?
The meeting between the two heads of states, China and the US, sent a very positive signal for the bilateral relations, of course, including trade and investment relations there. So today, I have met several US businesses. So I think they are also very supportive about the meeting of the two heads of the state. And they both, all of them are hoping the relations, especially in trade and investment relations between China and U.S. will be stabilized. So I think it's the I should say the voice of U.S. enterprises. So I think it's if China U.S. Will cooperate, I think it's not only beneficial for the bilateral relations for the two countries, I think for the world, it's very conducive.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ren. I will certainly run to CCPIT next year for the APEC CEO Summit. Thank you so much. Congratulations.
Welcome
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Beyond APEC, in recent weeks, gatherings such as the 28th China-ASEAN Summit have also shaped new frameworks for collaboration. The China-ASEAN Free Trade Area 3.0 upgrade protocol, signed recently, has opened new avenues for investment and connectivity. I sat down with Tengku Zafrul Aziz, Malaysia's Minister of Investment, Trade and Industry, to learn more about how this agreement will boost regional economic integration. Mr. Minister, what a pleasure to see you once again.
Yes, good to see you again.
Earlier, on the sideline of the ASEAN Summit, there is a so-called 3.0 version of China-ASEAN trade agreement.
Yes.
Now, there are a lot of areas that are new in that agreement, updated version. To Malaysia and to many of your trade minister colleagues, what are the most important components?
Well, China is definitely important, of course. That's why we continue to make sure that the FTA that we have remains relevant with the current times. In fact, the first 9 months of this year, trade between ASEAN and China has gone up close to 10%.
Amazing.
Yeah, so it's going from strength to strength. And we believe with this upgrade, it will grow even stronger because we'll reduce non-tariff barriers, but it also covers new sectors, basically on digital, capacity building as well, on sustainability. So these are areas where ASEAN economies are looking for investments as well with each other, but of course from China, and also giving more access for ASEAN companies to export into China with easier trade facilitation.
A lot of updated areas, for example, about infrastructure, green development, and digital, as well as AI and many other high-tech areas. Certainly, China has become a leader in innovation worldwide. So how will ASEAN economy tap into these advantages of the region as a whole?
Well, because as a region, we are really focusing on ensuring that the growth that we achieve are a growth that is inclusive, right? And digital is going to be key. And we need investments from countries like China, and we also need investments from countries from ASEAN to work together to invest further in digital. Because looking at digital trade, even ASEAN itself, we're looking at the Digital Economic Framework Agreement, where we want to promote more digital trade so that the small, medium enterprises can be included when it comes to international trade. But if you don't have the infrastructure, as you mentioned, then you can't talk about all this without having the roads, right? I mean, when you talk about development last time, where is the road? Where is the utilities? And now when you talk about the development for the future, where is the digital infrastructure? This is where, agreements such as the ASEAN-China FTA will help open the doors and make it easier for trade and investment in the digital economy.
Now, China is entering its 15th five-year plan very soon, and you probably have seen, Mr. Minister, some of the very general outlines of development directions in social and economic development for China. So to ASEAN and to Malaysia particularly, what are the parts that's music to your ears?
Well, first of all, I think we are optimistic that China has been talking a lot about focusing on ensuring that the principle of multilateralism is still relevant, right? And when China is talking about, well, they talked about Belt and Road Initiative, right? And they talk about the importance of growing and together equitably. So this is where, when you look at, I had discussion with my counterpart, for example, Minister Wang Wentao, he talked about how we can grow together, right? And how we can look at investment to help areas where we require support, and how Malaysia companies can have market access into China, right? What are the challenges and how they can facilitate that? So my main point is that China looks like it's continued to be open to the world and continue to believe that we need a rule-based trading system so that smaller countries, medium-sized countries like Malaysia, all can have an equal say, and especially when it comes to fair trade.
In the 15th five-year plan, the general guideline very clearly said high-quality development and high level of opening up to the rest of the world. Meanwhile, there has been advocacy for economic reform within China as well. So there are a lot of key button words that's being mentioned. Having said that, though, we also noticed, Mr. Minister, Malaysia is having a great balance among its trade relationship with many important players in the world, including the latest with the United States. Yes. How do you look at the nature of this agreement that you nailed down after very hard negotiations? I know since our last interview, you have been working very hard around the clock on that.
Well, I must thank the team. They are the one working around the clock. But of course, the agreement was signed during President Trump's visit to Malaysia during the ASEAN summit. It has been a hard-fought negotiations. I think both sides put across their wants, but I think we met a middle ground. But to us, what's important is that we didn't sacrifice our national sovereignty, right? We talked about being practical in many of those clauses. It is not like any other FTA. I think it's different because obviously, we just concluded, for example, Korea FTA, ASEAN-China FTA, whereas this is about tariffs, right? It's about reciprocal trade. I think we have to understand where the United States is coming from. They still believe in trade, but they feel that trade is with them, especially when it comes to trade deficit, harms their economy. So we need to explain and to show that, Malaysia, for example, a lot of our exports actually complements, right? It's a complement, our trade activities complement each other. So this is where we managed to get a lot of waivers or the tariff that, now is at 19%, but we have 1,711 tariff line that is exempted, for example, where we try to explain why it will actually hurt the US as well. So we try to find ways and to explain. I think that's why engagement is important. But at the same time, we cannot just rely on one country, right? We continue to upgrade with others. That's why Korea, for example, we just complete with the EFTA. We are just going this month with second round of negotiations with EU. We applied to be a member of BRICS, and here we are at Apec. So we need to ensure that, we need to diversify and also deepen the markets that we are already in.
As the Minister of Trade and also working on investment, you probably have to have two very different mindsets now. One is multilaterally.
Yes.
As earlier, somewhat.
Yep.
But the other is totally bilaterally, especially to one or two specific economies. How does that work? These are two very different logics and can be changing all the time. For example, on the bilateral. So how do you deal with this turbulence and very different mindset, Mr. Minister?
Well, today we are in a world where, there's a lot more uncertainties when it comes to global trade. It's talking about geopolitics, we talk about geoeconomics, even if you look at history, right? Even when Malaysia was under different superpowers, trade was always the reason why Malaysia was, a country that people wanted to occupy or invade. We had the Portuguese, we had the British, and of course, before that, we also had the Dutch. So, it's all because of the trade opportunities in that region. And Malaysia is geographically located located very well.
Yeah, and rich in natural resources.
And also rich in natural resources. So, and then now today we talk about economy, we talk about economic security, right? Even for the first time in the ASEAN summit, both ASEAN economic ministers under our pillar, together with ASEAN foreign ministers, sat together, right, to discuss about geoeconomics, because now people are making decisions along economic security, no longer about just economic viability, right? Looking which one is commercially viable, etc. But it's also about security of supply chain, resiliency of supply chain, etc. So things are changing at the same time. So for us, it is important that we engage. And to your question between multilateralism and also bilateral, we have also plurilateral, right? So for us, I give you an example. I mentioned Korea, right? We have a Malaysian-Korea FTA, that's bilateral. And we have also, Korea is also together with us in RCEP, which is ASEAN +5, right? And Korea is also with us in many other agreements, I'm sure. But what I'm trying to say is just like our relationship with Korea, it is important that we have both because, in a bigger platform, it's not easy to achieve certain standards that we want to have because there are many countries involved and different countries are at different stages of growth, different countries have different sectors or that are sensitive. But when you talk bilaterally, there are areas where we can then look at opportunities that are higher. Similarly, we are some countries like Malaysia and many ASEAN countries are members of CPTPP, but they also are members of ATIGA and they are members of RCEP. So, even better, there are many multilateral platforms that we are on together as well, in fact, on top of bilateral. So this is it's not something new, but what's important is that, again, for us, a rule-based multilateral system does give a more fairer, equitable playing field for all, or else the bigger countries will always dominate. And I think you want to have a world where it's equitable in terms of growth and growth that is also sustainable and inclusive. You need to have a system in place to make sure that everyone has a fair say.
Well said, Mr. Minister. There are concerns, though, about how sustainable hard-fought battle of negotiation and eventually coming into a trade agreement that can be agreed at a time by both sides, but how sustainable will that be and whether it will be implemented as promised. So your thoughts on that, because you fought every minute for it.
Again, as a government, and I'm sure any government will do the same, we've signed many agreements, not just trade agreements, many commitments that are made. It is our job to ensure that, it's our duty, in fact, to ensure that what we have agreed must be enforced, or else.
What about your counterpart?
Yes, that's our hope as well, right? Because, of course, in any agreement, if one don't perform, the agreement ceases to be an agreement, right? There are clauses sometimes to come back into a negotiation, sometimes we have a consultation, sometimes we can exit, right? So there are clauses if one don't honor, right? Of course, some are even monetary, not punishment, but monetary impact, right? So this is where, we try to avoid. It's like when you borrow money, right? When the government issues a bond, right? It is a commitment, right? If you don't pay, then no one will lend to you anymore. So if you don't agree,
it's called credibility.
Yes,
as
if you
simple
renegade,
as that.
if you renegade in this agreement, other agreements might be affected too.
But maybe muscle works. Never mind credibility.
Muscle, depending on what muscle means, but of course on trade and investments, like for Malaysia, muscle works because it has an impact to our people. Right, for example, when we negotiate with US, it's a large export market, it's a big investor. It creates millions of jobs for Malaysians. Hundreds of thousands of companies are involved. So we need to think about that, right? So when you say muscle, it's only muscle when it affects the country.
We see some very interesting development from Malaysia. Okay. You have very good natural resources, and you have been taking great advantage of that for the national prosperity. We have also seen rare earth development, for example. How do you see the latest projects or possibilities going into different directions regarding commodities, raw materials? How do you navigate the complex picture related to these fields, particularly recently?
We have rich natural resources, right? Those days when tin mining was important, those days when now it's palm oil, and more recently rare earth. What do we do? If you look at our policies, it's been consistent. You look at palm oil, look at petrol, oil and gas. We want to develop the midstream and the downstream. So we do petrochemical for palm oil, we do oleochemicals. So we continue to invest and get companies to invest in the downstream. Similarly for rare earth. And rare earth is so important today in today's technology needs, especially when it comes to AI, etc. Right? Every part of semiconductor as well. So we are saying, look, we also want to develop that part. Just like we've developed other commodities in the country, rare earth is another opportunity. So we have banned export of rare earth, right? We want to encourage more companies with the right expertise to invest in Malaysia so that we can build an ecosystem and bring value to that ecosystem and create jobs and bring opportunities to Malaysian companies. So that's why on rare earth, it's similar to other policies that we have. We want to invite companies from China, US, well, Australia is already there. They are the first one to be involved in processing of rare earth. And today in Korea, we just got a company that is involved in supermagnet to come in to be part of that supply chain. So it works, right? I mean, we've seen the success in the palm oil and oil and gas industries in Malaysia, for example.
We have seen the supply chains changing over the past few months. To some extent, the dust has been settled a little bit. What is your latest observation of the nature of this change now? And where is Malaysia among all these changes?
Well, the recent last meeting between the two great economic superpowers, right, happened here in Korea, right, between President Trump and President Xi.
In the airport at
Busan. Yes, Busan. And the outcome has been, to me, positive, right? Come up with a framework and have agreed on certain terms, right? But I believe there will be more meetings. I mean, to understand there will be more meetings between the two. And it's good because every time there are meetings, temperature comes down. And of course, before the meeting, the working team will be meeting each other to ensure that as many issues are resolved. because these two economies are very important to the global economy. They contribute close to half of global GDP.
Mr. Minister, you've been traveling with the Prime Minister to many occasions. You know very well the Prime Minister take a joke and say his name means artificial intelligence.
Yes.
But it certainly shows how much the administration is putting on innovation, even from His Excellency himself. So how do you see where you are with the trade and investment are likely working with the latest trends of artificial intelligence, not only about technology, but also supply chains and governance?
Yes, for Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, yes, is Prime Minister AI, like you said. In fact, that's Anwar Ibrahim. So for digital economy, it continues to be important to Malaysia, but as I mentioned earlier, we need to ensure the infrastructure is in place. That's why we need the computing power, we need the right amount of electricity, the right amount of talent, so that people can then adopt and apply those technologies. So Malaysia, we even have our digital ministry looking closely with this, and we have the National AI Office also under our Minister of Digital.
Mr. Minister, as always, such a pleasure to see you, and thank you for your time out of busy schedule.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.